Me okay? All right, there we go. So first of all, before I start, quick question for you all. How many of you believe where you work that you have a branding problem with product marketing? All right, so pretty good. I would say at least 2/3, 3/4 of where we're at. So it's like I've probably hit a nerve a little bit with how we're approaching this particular topic. So just a little bit about me. I've always been involved in technology marketing over the past 25 years or so. Got my start actually consulting in the field, working for technology companies. So had a huge opportunity to go out and work with specific customers and clients about meeting their needs with our products and services. So it really was a huge influence on my career in terms of where I wanted to go with product marketing as next. Also been a product manager. Did that for 1 year. I have no desire to do it again. It was really interesting to get into sort of nuances and what their focus is. And that's also, I think, given me the opportunity to understand their direction versus my direction. Obviously, they're very focused on the customer, very focused on inward in terms of bringing products to market. We'd have opportunities as product marketers to bring to life the products that we market. I've also been a CMO. In a lot of cases, it's been situations where they had a product marketing first view of the world, and they really wanted product marketing to drive the engine of marketing. So I'm more than happy to take on that when it's obviously the right situation. And then I've been involved in various product marketing roles over the past 15 years. So I've seen it all. Number of companies I've worked for. I've been a product marketer at IBM as well, for the IBM folks out there. So it's really been great to sort of see both from a small and large company perspective. Currently Vice President Product Marketing at Epsilon, so we cover about 5 business units and part of the global marketing organization, managing the go-to-market for those 5 divisions. All right, so when I was thinking about how I wanted to introduce this topic, one of the things that came to mind is the fact that I'm sure all of you are extremely busy. I don't know if how many of you share this up here. You have packed schedules, super busy. Are you able to really get out for lunch? My favorite is when people double book me over lunch or triple book me. I never get a chance to actually get out and enjoy a little bit of lunch. You have unrealistic deadlines. All right. Are you stuck at the office? Are you checking email on weekends? I think all of us are put in that situations, right? And it's driven by the notion that people will come to me and say, now, what does product marketing do, right? Or what do you do exactly? And you're sitting there and going, but my schedule is packed. How is it possible to not know what is going on, right? Part of that is driven by the fact as I think about this is, we are really the drivers of driving a product to market fit with some of the teams that I've focused about. So I always have this vision in my head, right, about this road and how we're trying to put our company and our products, right, on that path going forward. Or usually I'll say something like, we drive the right revenue for the company. I'm not sure why it screwed up on the image, but for the companies that we work with, right? And so that's really the critical part of this, is that we are there helping drive the right revenue through the product market fit where we're going. And then this is typically the reaction that I get. Typical Simon reaction. So they're going dazed, confused. I'm not sure what that means. I still don't know what you do. Please help me, right? So yes, product marketing does have a branding problem, and everybody comes at it from a slightly different perspective. I was listening to Sylvia's conversation earlier today, where she said, "What the hell is that?" Right? And so it's sort of that sort of constraint we get into. I was at the point too where when I started in technology field, they didn't even have product marketing as a function there. And so everything was sort of handled outside of the organization. So what are the symptoms of a branding problem? First of all, product marketing tends to extend into other parts of the organization, right? And so what I typically say about that is product marketing is inherently happening. It just depends where, right? And if product marketing was a late addition to a particular company, right? If what happens then is you are then put into much more of a reactive or tactical role because then you haven't been a chance to get ahead of the curve in the companies that you're working for. It's considered a service to the organization, right? I need this, I need that brochure, right? It's more about a service or a tactical function that plays. One of my favorite things I like to say is product marketing can be death by 1,000 paper cuts, right? Because you're always, once you deliver one thing, you're asked to deliver something else. It's something where even though you're trying to drive a much more proactive go-to-market, sales feels like they know best, right? Usually what that is, they're looking at things from a short-term numbers perspective, not a long-term perspective, or product knows best. And we all know as we have our relationship with a product organization, they are certainly well-versed in trying to build the products and features, but we're there to make sure they're building the products and features that will turn into benefit and differentiators for the companies and the markets that we're serving, right? And so there's definitely a yin and yang and a really critical dynamic between the product and product marketing organization. Or one of my favorites is, nobody can explain product marketing, but they know they need it, right? I joined one company once where CEO was standing up there and talking about, how they had, we were doing a quarterly all hands meeting and somebody was asking a question. And CEO said, that's exactly why we hired product marketing. It was absolutely no bearing on what was actually the reason. It's just that he knew it was there to fill a gap that nobody else was doing, all right? The other thing too is about this is that what you believe product marketing is not typically what the organization believes, right? And so there's been some conversations back and forth today about when you look at product marketing and where you want to go, you are going to have to do a lot of enablements in order to drive them on the right path where we need to go. All right, so what I'd like to spend the time here is then, if you understand the concept that product marketing has a branding problem, how can you go about addressing it within your organization? And I put together this framework because I think it really helps sort of level set, and I've done this just about in every organization that I've come into. In most cases, product marketing's been distributed, or it hasn't been pulled together into a centralized function, or there was no clear direction of where they needed to go. And so part of what I've always done in communization is to really try to provide a framework and an array of light of where you need to go. Again, this takes time, right? Which is why we have the value over time line there, but it's something that you can have quick wins going forward, right? So the first is defining your product marketing's North Star, right? So what that means is, what do you want to be famous for in your organization? Do you want to be strategic? We all want to be there, but there's a certain roadmap that takes to get there. Do you really want to be the storyteller, right? Do you want to be the evangelist? Right? Or do you really want to be the one that's focused on driving the content going forward? So it's about understanding what the North Star is and then moving forward from there, right? Second part of this is assessing your current point of view, right? And I sort of described that in my introduction, just coming in and saying, okay, if you know that product marketing has a branding problem, what else is causing the problem with it, right? So one of the first questions is, where does it sit? Right, and so I'd love to have another set of hands on how many of you have product marketing sitting in marketing today? All right, it's a good portion. Now, how many of you have product marketing sitting in product organization? All right, so about 2/3, a third. Does anybody in here have product marketing reporting directly into the CEO? None, okay. I have seen this on several occasions, which I think shows the more strategic you are in an organization, obviously the more impact you have with the executive team. Are you just a content provider, right? Is it all about, hey, how many data sheets can I put together, or how many pitch decks, or other types of collateral, right? Where is there overreach and what drives it, right? When it's overreach, means who else is doing product marketing? How much of the product team is involved in what you would typically do today? How much is sales ops involved in where you are? Are there other parts of marketing doing what product marketing should be doing? Is there a vertical overlay? Are they doing it? Is there a solutions team overlay? Are they doing some of the things that you're working on, right? And so there's trying to figure out what the boundaries are so that you can then take it from there and build a roadmap going forward. The last one is there a top-down buy-in, right? One of the purest forms of gaining success within an organization is understanding what the CEO's perspective is on product marketing. Do you need to build a relationship with the executive team to help them understand and provide a light and direction for the rest of the organization as well? And then lastly, as I mentioned, how is product marketing perceived, right? That's where the branding sort of comes in. It's an assessment of understanding how much internal branding you need to do in order to put product marketing on the right path forward. And then the third step is creating a roadmap, right? And so what this is about is, as I mentioned in my first step, the North Star, what is your vision and mission for what product marketing can be going forward, right? What is the hiring profile? What I've found typically is that there's no rhyme or reason to the types of product marketing resources and organizations that I've come into. They all come from different parts of background, have different points of view, have different, potentially companies where they've come from or experiences. The question is, when you start to create that point of view of where to go, what is the type of hiring profile that you want, right? Do you want somebody who has domain expertise in where you're at? Obviously have a passion for where you're going. Somebody who can speak is a great communicator, right? Somebody who understands the value and wants to be able to work closely with product organizations. Somebody who wants to build bridges across the organization, right? And then the third point of this is nailing a quick win, right? So understanding where can you go in and to be able to drive those wins in order to move the business forward. Identifying proof points or pivot points across your organization, right? And so one of the things as you're on this roadmap, you start to tackle more and more projects, right? And more initiatives, making sure you're pivoting product marketing along with that, right? If somebody else was doing win-loss, right? You take on that eventually going forward. Somebody else is doing persona development, right? You move that forward. If somebody else is responsible for putting out the pitch decks and developing the story, right? You're slowly taking that on as initiative going forward. And then, which is really needed across the organization, is building a bridge, right? So it's being able to come in and making sure that you're building bridges and always starting that conversation with what product marketing is so you can start to enable the rest of the teams going forward to your organization. One of the worst things that can happen as a product marketer is to feeling like you're being part of a silo and you're not able to get out there and stretch yourself as part of the organization going forward. And then the fourth step is rapidly gaining quick wins, right? I mentioned this in the last step as well, but it's doing things that nobody else has taken upon themselves, right? That you can come in and really start to build a name for yourself within the organization, right? And so that could be delivering a win-loss assessment. We've had a lot of conversations about that today, right? It may not have been something that is done previously, but you can tackle and show worth across the sales team that may not have been integrated with you previously. Developing a go-to-market plan. I don't know how many times I've seen over the years where products are just launched without a real assessment of the state of the market or the target audience or target buyer going after, right? So is this something that even though nobody's asked for, can you proactively put together a plan and share it with an executive team and product stakeholders and try to learn how to assess whether or not there's a product market fit and what the gaps are, and then using that to develop really a more focused go-to-market strategy with it. Creating or developing competitive understanding. I've had a lot of cases where the sales team will take this upon themselves, right? Or the product team will take it upon themselves. Typically what happens then is it ends up being a siloed one-off activity, which is not part of an integrated marketing plan, right? Or part of a marketing strategy. So how can you take competitive and use it as part of how you want to bring products to market, how you want to differentiate against the competitors, how you want to enable the rest of the marketing organization on what it means, right? So there's ways to be able to develop this and also include it in the sales enablement. Provide value with customers, right? One of the hardest things that I found, and we were talking about this yesterday at lunch, was the idea of how we get close to the customer, right? It's really critical for product marketers. We're supposed to be the voice of the market, but if you can't be the voice of the market unless you're able to actually get out there. So you can have a quick win where you're getting out there playing a role with either sales or the client services team and understanding what's important to them. You can use that information as you're trying to build out your go-to-market and your value proposition. And do speaking engagements, right? I've had cases, especially when you're working with founders, where they feel they need to be the voice of the customer. We're really trying to start that road or that path forward where you can play a role, right? You can start to speak and evangelize on behalf of your products and services, right, that you're involved with, right? So it's anything you can do to start to build momentum as you start to rebrand your organization. And then the last one is really about measuring your success based on the influence that you're providing to the company, not based on volume. And this is really, really tricky and can be really, really difficult because one of the things that you're getting into with many types of organizations is your metrics that are being handed to you are potentially based on volume, right? And so the more that you could take a step back and connect the dots between what you're working on and the revenue that you're helping drive will help turn everybody's understanding of what product marketing is, and not just a cost center, but something that is a revenue influencer, and that's ultimately where you want to get to with product marketing. So what does that look like? It's about focus on things like pipeline growth, right? When you start to see the influence of product marketing, for instance, you're accelerating deals more quickly, right? Because you have a better product market fit. You're getting better customers or prospects in the pipe, higher quality than you've had in the past. And so that should show up into how you're closing deals going forward, right? And the sales velocity. It's also about customer growth, right? The more you're able to enable and evangelize the products and services you're working on, that means that your current customers and their lifetime revenue with your company is going to grow as part of that. Are you able to gain more stature with the industry influencers, right? Obviously, there's Gartner and Forrester and the ones. Are they starting to write more about you, right? But also other industry influencers out there. Are you starting to look at your solutions and services more with a positive light than you have in the past, right? And so this gets you out of the volume game and provide much more of a holistic strategic view on everything going forward. So taking these 5 together, this is really the foundation for how you could approach a framework going forward. I do want to call out the one line above there, which is always be selling, right? I always take the opportunity whenever I am meeting somebody new or somebody starts in an organization or I'm meeting a new department or go to an international office or what have you, is to take the time, 5 minutes out, and explain to them what product marketing is, right? And I bet you 9 out of 10 times their perception, understanding of product marketing is different than what your perception or your desire of what product marketing is. So why not have that conversation for 5 minutes and help lead them and guide them where you are so they can help promote on your behalf across the organization. All right, so as you're going down this path, there's definitely things you're gonna learn and things that I learned as I was starting to develop the product marketing brand in the companies that I worked for. First one is, and I mentioned this previously, is product marketing is inherently being done, right? It depends where, right? And it's about you connecting the dots and pulling in the areas you think are needed in order to create a centralized workforce for it, and then to be able to position that going out. I've always found that even regardless of how you want to rebrand, product marketing is typically and woefully underinvested, right? Given the amount of product managers that service particular products and the ratio of that to product marketing, it's quite low, right? So the other understanding of how to look at that is, as you're going on this path, is you can't boil the ocean. So you need to carve out and look at certain areas that you want to focus on and then move that forward. Everything that we found is that the more that companies have invested in product marketing growth earlier on, the more it's been more cohesive, right? It's been more engaged and more of a partnership across the organization. Organizations that have invested in product marketing later, right, they have not had it, and so therefore they have tended to be thinking of it as a much more tactical function and a much more distributed in terms of areas. And so it's, depending on the situation going into, you have to think through that. As I said before, you need to sell yourself and continue to sell, right? All of us don't feel like we're sellers, but to be successful, you have to be able to come in and be able to sell your perspective and sell where you want to go, sell your North Star, and that'll put you on the path of where you want to be in 1 year, 3 years, 5 years. And then the last thing, which I found has been just an absolute truth wherever you go, you will be an organizational disruptor. If you had another group that's always been involved in win-loss, right? And you're saying, hey, I'd love to be able to take that on. And someone's like, hey, that's my job. I know what you're doing. Like, there's a lot of territorial things that come into play, right? And so it's always about sort of sharing and understanding the value and being a partner with them versus coming in saying you're there to be a disruptor and pulling away things that somebody else might be working on. But that's part of what happens when you know that product marketing is being done. It's just in other parts of the organization. All right, so with that, that's the framework for how you would rebrand product marketing. So happy to take any questions.
Any questions?
I answered them all. There's one in the back.
Was me? Was there one? Okay.
You mentioned getting quick wins while you're trying to get alignment with everyone. What's your favorite go-to quick win that's worked the most?
What was my favorite quick win, or my one that really nailed it?
Maybe one of each.
I would say probably the biggest win that I've had is when I actually put when I built a go-to-market framework and then roll that out to the product team. And the reason is because they really answered a lot of questions that they hadn't even thought of along the way as they pushed that product into market. And actually what it caused is them to rethink how they wanted to bring that product to market, but also pause the rollout of that product until they really address the differentiation and the target audience they want to go after, right? And then from there become a more refined product market fit, as well as a much more focused revenue generator for them.
Any other questions? All right, I have one question. So I think it's super duper hard, like you were saying, to tie product marketing to revenue, because there's other groups that are like, well, we bought the ads and we closed the deal and we,
Yeah.
So how do you do that? Or do you have any more depth on how you tie product marketing to actual revenue generation?
Yeah, it's a good question, because as you know, product marketing is typically one step removed from the end results that marketing delivers, or the result of the sales or the product side of it. For me, it's about making sure you're connecting the dots between the activities and initiatives you're doing against the revenue growth goals that you're seeing across the organization, right? So if you have a goal of you want to close more deals more quickly, right? Or you're finding that the quality of the leads coming in are low, right? And you start with the benchmark, and you've introduced initiatives. You're looking at what you are doing and then showing that against the metrics of the pipeline or the quality leads or accelerating deals or what have you. That's the surest way of doing it. It's a little bit of interpretation of it, but it's also about selling yourself within that perspective.
That makes sense. All right. Well, thank you very much. We are down to our final.